I guess that my curiosity then goes into, probably it's tangential to the third point, which is it a non-life or a life source? It relates to the idea of it being directly sourced from Venus. Like, is it a natural component of Venus, or did it emerge from, an asteroid or something, just like stardust just scattering throughout the galaxy?
Right. Well, that's one of the things we looked into in our 100 pages, because Earth and Venus and other planets, they're receiving this meteorite dust, we could call it, lots of it, actually. And knowing what those meteorites are made of, you can make a calculation that says what is, if there's phosphorus compounds in there, could they turn into phosphine? And in many of these cases, the answer is maybe, but in such tiny amounts, it could never explain the amount that we have found. So all these are viable possibilities, and we scientists make calculations to see whether it pans out or not.
And that brings me to the contrast between life on Earth, the diversity of life here, and not finding that elsewhere, not even on Venus, even though, there's hints to it. The question here is, and it also relates to another point, which is the Goldilocks zone, which I would love for you to expand on. What does it mean for finding life out there on exoplanets? But did the Earth become just like an attractor of these stardust, of these life-creating chemicals, and just compiled everything together, whereas other planets weren't just that lucky? Or why is it that we can't find... We can just... It's just like we're like a crime scene investigator trying to find, the pieces of the puzzle, and they're so scattered throughout the entire galaxy, and we still don't find anything as concrete as planet Earth, if that makes sense.
Right. It's a really good question. Now, there could be life on Venus still. It could be making phosphine. It could not be making phosphine, because we think that life needs a few criteria: a liquid environment, so molecules can react and reactions can get carried out. Venus has that. It has liquid cloud particles. They're just acid, not water. We think life needs the right temperature so that complex molecules can form. Venus has that. And life needs an energy source, and Venus has that, the sun. But if there is life, why is it so hard to find? Because, Venus is starved in terms of its resources. Imagine if there's life in the clouds. It doesn't have, like you were saying, the lush forest or oceans or land runoff. If there is life, it's like barely eking out an existence up there. Imagine that the cells are there living, but they're barely doing anything. It's like worse than a hibernating animal. Like, it wouldn't barely be doing anything. And so it's also not outputting gases or giving a lot of signs. But we do feel that if we could go to Venus and investigate, we could send a balloon to Venus' atmosphere, and we could look at suck in the cloud particles and subject them to special chemical analyzers. We might find signs of life. We might find very complex molecules only associated with life. But if there is life, we're thinking of a very, very primitive type of cell that's just barely eking out an existence and not really easy to find from far away. So that does relate to your second question, is why is Earth so good? We just think we won the lottery of planet formation, because we see stars we see stars with planet forming disks. Like, a star is born and it's got a lot of leftover gas and dust swirling around it that we have evidence forms the planets that we see today. But where a planet forms and how big that planet becomes, we don't fully understand that. And we think some of it is just random. Like, I don't know if you have this, but we get dust bunnies under the bed, under the couch. Dust collects and it starts forming like little patches of dust. But why did that form under the left side of your couch instead of the right side? Or, what? It's just, maybe you didn't vacuum properly. But in the disk, why does one part start collecting more than another part and then growing to form a planet? So we got lucky here that Earth formed and is the right distance from our sun, that with its atmosphere and greenhouse gases, it had the right surface temperature for liquid water. Some people think that both Venus and Mars also formed with liquid water, like surface oceans. but that through time they lost them, that Venus became too hot and the water essentially boiled away. So it's largely just a matter of luck.